WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Hello there. It's the 22nd of April 2025 and this is Race to Power on WION World is One. We're glad you're watching. I'm American Joker. We begin this broadcast with some breaking news. Now, a deadly terror attack has rocked India's Jammu and Kashmir. Terrorists opened fire on a group of tourists. Now, this is the latest image from Pahalgam, from the location of the attack. Let's give you a background of this latest tragedy. The tourists were targeted at the Baisaran mountaintop in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. One person has been killed. Now, according to authorities, 20 people sustained injuries. More fatalities are feared. We are waiting for official announcement and communication from the authorities. Several people are feared dead. Union Home Minister Amit Shah is rushing to Kashmir as we speak. He says, and I quote, "Those involved in this dastardly act of terror will not be spared and will come down heavily on the perpetrators with the harshest consequences." The Home Minister earlier held a high-profile meeting in New Delhi to take stock of the situation in New Delhi. India's premier probe agency, National Investigating Agency, has taken over the probe. The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, says that needless to say, this attack is much larger than anything we have seen directed at civilians in recent years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is in Saudi Arabia, expressed his deep anguish and has directed the Union Home Minister Amit Shah to visit the site and oversee the situation. Now, in a statement, the Prime Minister said, and I will quote him, "I strongly condemn the terror attack in Pahalgam. Those behind this heinous act will be brought to justice. They will not be spared." Now, the attack took place at around 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon when a group of terrorists opened fire on tourists in Pahalgam's Baisaran meadow. Security forces cordoned off the area. Additional security forces have been rushed to that area. The Resistance Front, a local offshoot of the Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba, claimed responsibility for the attack. An eyewitness said that unidentified gunmen opened fire on the tourists from close range, and according to security forces, there were foreign terrorists involved in the attack. The visibly distraught and injured tourists were brought to a nearby hospital for treatment. Women and elderly were among the group of tourists attacked. Kashmir has been witnessing thriving tourism and normalcy. According to official figures, around 3.5 million tourists visited Kashmir last year. This attack also comes ahead of the Amarnath Yatra. The Yatra, a major Hindu pilgrimage, is scheduled to begin on July 3rd. The registration for the Yatra has already begun. Let's now understand the current situation at this moment. Our special correspondent Idris Lone is joining us live from Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, where this attack took place. Idris Lone, good to see you. We are seeing horrifying images coming from that area. What's the latest you can tell us?
Well, Eric, it is one of the most unfortunate incidents, one of the most brutal as well, that has taken place in the Kashmir region today. We're right now in Pahalgam, where what we are seeing on the ground is that more and more deployment of security forces, which includes the Indian Army, Jammu and Kashmir Police and paramilitary forces, is being brought in towards Pahalgam. We've seen a number of ambulances also being taken to, especially to the Baisaran area where this incident has taken place. Unofficially, what we are hearing is that there over 24 people have been killed in this firing incident. But at the moment, there is no official confirmation from either the central government or the state government. The health minister of the state just passed by, and she's going to the hospital in Pahalgam, where she said that only one person has died. That is what official account has been so far, while as 13 of them injured, while 4 of them were critical and have been shifted to Srinagar hospital. On the other hand, what we are hearing from our security sources is that there are dead bodies which were airlifted. We could see that choppers were brought in to Baisaran area where the bodies were lying, and what we are being hearing is that bodies were airlifted from there. On the other side, the Home Minister of India, Amit Shah, has also left from New Delhi towards Srinagar. He'll be reaching any moment now. The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir also on his way to Pahalgam, especially to take stock of the situation in the hospitals where the injured are being treated.
Idris Lone is our special correspondent. He's in Pahalgam as we speak. Idris Lone, stay with me because we do have an eyewitness account of what really happened in Pahalgam. Let's just listen into what the eyewitness had to say.
जो है वो जीएमसी अनंतनाग में है, उनमें 3 स्टेबल हैं, एक जो है थोड़ा सीरियस है, एक को सोवरा शिफ्ट किया गया है, बाकी माइनर इंजरीज जिनकी थी उनको डिस्चार्ज किया गया है। और ये हादसा जो हुआ है इसको जितना कंडेम किया जाए, ये बदकिस्मती की बात है, दुख की बात है, ये हादसे नहीं होने चाहिए। शुक्रिया।
All right, that is Jammu and Kashmir's Social Welfare Minister, who has just shared an update on WION, on those injured in this attack. That was not an eyewitness. Let's just go back to our correspondent who is in Pahalgam. Idris Lone, if you can hear me, you did indicate that the Home Minister is on his way to Pahalgam as we speak, and this is following the direction from the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What's the latest that you can give us from that area? Because we've just heard from the Special Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. What's the latest that you can tell us from the region that you are in?
Well, Eric, as we are standing exactly at the entry point of the Pahalgam tourist resort, this is the place where all the security apparatus has been moved in. Now what we are seeing on the ground is the movement of Indian Army, Jammu and Kashmir Police, as well as paramilitary forces. And we also saw some commandos being brought in to basically cover and cordon the whole area where the incident has taken place. Officially, there is no confirmation on the deaths and the injured that has taken place in the incident, but what we are seeing, the tweets that are coming in from across the country. The Prime Minister has tweeted and also mentioned that there are deceased family. He has shown concern towards the deceased families, while as Home Minister has done the same. So have all the ministers in Jammu and Kashmir done exactly the same. But the numbers officially not being given out to media. It seems like they're waiting for the Home Minister to arrive in Kashmir Valley, and after that an official announcement will be made. But what we saw on the ground, that more and more deployment is being brought in. We're being told it was a group of 5 to 6 militants who basically came down from a dense forest area. There were huge number of tourists present, domestic tourists, international tourists, as well as locals. The locals have shops there as well. And what we are hearing is that it was a kind of a brutal attack where they really didn't care who's in front of them. All the civilians were lined up, they were shot at, and a lot of them killed. But no official account as of now. That's what we are hearing from our sources. But the pictures and the visuals are extremely brutal. And we've not seen such an attack taking place in the Kashmir Valley in many, many years, especially if we talk about the locals and the tourists coming to Kashmir Valley. We've seen an attack of this level, which was in Pulwama, where around 40 CRPF soldiers were killed in 2019. But after that, we had not seen any such attack. But this seems extremely brutal to basically target the civilian population like that.
All right, that is our special correspondent, Idris Lone, who is at the site of this tragic incident in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. Idris Lone, we'll have to leave it there. Keep it safe. We'll talk to you later. America's universities are fighting back against the White House, accusing executive powers of political interference in the education system of U.S. higher education institutions have come together to send a unified message to the administration. Earlier in the day, over 100 universities and colleges, including top Ivy League institutions, issued a joint letter condemning the U.S. president's interference and administration's crackdown. The letter read, and I quote, "We are open to constructive reform and do not oppose legitimate government oversight. However, we must oppose undue government intrusion." Universities released the joint letter hours after Harvard University took legal action against Trump. On Monday, Harvard filed a federal lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing that government overreach violated the university's constitutional rights. The lawsuit comes days after Trump froze $2.2 billion worth of funds for the top institution and also threatened to remove Harvard's tax-exempt status. The U.S. President's administration has cracked down on universities in the backdrop of student-led 2024 pro-Palestine protests that rocked the nation. Harvard has been in an ongoing tussle with the Trump administration. It has rejected a list of demands from the administration, like reforming its curriculum and admissions programs, discontinuing diversity, equity and inclusion practices, and additional policy demands. Trump and his White House team have publicly justified their campaign against universities as a reaction to what they say is uncontrolled anti-Semitic and administration claims protests against Israel's war in Gaza that swept across U.S. college campuses last year are rife with anti-Semitism. Additionally, Trump has accused Harvard of only catering to the elite class and receiving the largest federal endowments. Last month, Trump suspended $400 million in funding to Columbia University, $210 million in funding for Princeton University, $1 billion and $790 million in funding for Cornell University and Northwestern University.
Say it loud, say it more. Not a conflict, not a war.
Susan Tehrani is our correspondent in the United States. She is now joining us live from New York. Susan, good to see you. There is this back and forth between universities and notably Harvard University and now Columbia University against Trump. How far or how long is this back and forth game going to go on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. Just some nuances about what's happening with Harvard. Essentially, by suing the Trump administration, Harvard has gone against the American people and is suing American taxpayers because that's where this money is coming from. The Trump administration argues that it's fine, you can have your independence, you just don't get tax dollars because there is a clause in the Constitution and a law against discriminating against certain sectors. And at this point, the Trump administration alleges that it's against Jewish students. Now, Harvard has done something very interesting. It's grabbed the headlines by suing the Trump administration. Many analysts believe that doesn't have ground, that it doesn't ultimately want to go to court. But the two lawyers that it's hired are very close to the Trump administration, causing speculation that perhaps Harvard ultimately wants to sit at the negotiating table and have a negotiation with the Trump administration and not take this to court. The problem is, if Harvard would have caved, it would have received the same fate as Columbia. Its president would have to resign. There would have been a lot of news around the fact that it, caved to the Trump White House and whatnot. So it's trying to do this on the side while ultimately, grabbing attention in the headlines saying that, we're going to sue the Trump administration. So it appears that with Harvard, it's going to be settled outside of the courts. And then you have those other universities. I think they're going to see how Harvard and Columbia deal with this moving forward, and they're going to take their stance based on that.
All right, Susan Tehrani, good to see you. We'll have to end it there. Thank you. 3 months into his presidency, Trump 2.0 is mired with crises and controversies. Trump has chosen to fight on every front, from global allies and rivals to domestic judiciary and universities. How are Trump's policies changing his popularity on the ground? A new poll conducted by Reuters Ipsos tries to answer that. Polls show public approval rating of U.S. president has reached its lowest level since his return to the White House. From inflation to immigration to taxation and the rule of law, the poll shows the support for the newly elected president is dwindling since the time he took office in January. Trump's tariff policy seems to have made a huge dent in his popularity. Trump's approval rating has taken the biggest hit when it comes to the economy. As it stands, Trump's performance on the economy has a 37% approval rating, down from 43% when he took office in January. Poll data shows immigration policy has been a saving grace for Trump. At the time of inauguration, 46% of respondents approved Trump's immigration policies. After 3 months in office, 45% still believe Trump is on the right course when it comes to immigration. Overall numbers show 42% of Americans approve of Trump's job performance. This number stood at 47% on January 21st. Despite sharp dip in his popularity, Trump's approval ratings remained largely higher than that of Biden throughout his presidency. 83% of over 4,000 respondents said Trump should abide by court rulings against his decisions. 57% disapprove of Trump's crackdown on universities. 59% of the surveyed said the U.S. is beginning to lose credibility on the global stage. More than half believe Trump should not attempt to run for presidency a third time, highlighting the changing tone of American voters over the president's recent actions. 4 U.S. lawmakers have arrived in El Salvador to push for the release of a Salvadorian man mistakenly deported from the United States and held at a notorious prison in the country. Democrat U.S. Representatives Maxwell Frost of Florida, Robert Garcia of California, Yasemin Ansari of Arizona, and Maxine Dexter of Oregon said that they are in El Salvador to facilitate Garcia's return to the U.S. In a statement, they accused President Trump's administration of running a government-funded kidnapping program.
But we got to be clear, this isn't just about him. This is also about every single person in the United States. The Constitution applies to all people in our country. Due process applies to all people in our country.
We're here in El Salvador demanding the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We think it's incredibly important that the law in the United States is followed. Our Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, to be clear, has said that Mr. Abrego Garcia should be returned to the United States.
The U.S. government sent Kilmar Abrego Garcia to El Salvador on March 15th despite an order protecting him from deportation. The U.S. Supreme Court directed the Trump administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return after Washington acknowledged he was deported to El Salvador due to an administrative error. His lawyer said that he had left El Salvador at the age of 16 to escape gang-related violence and has never been charged with or convicted of any crime. Well, the Trump administration says Abrego Garcia belongs to the criminal gang Aragua or MS-13. His lawyers have denied the allegation.
We know nothing of Mr. Abrego Garcia's whereabouts since the staged photo op on Thursday with Senator Van Hollen. We demand to immediately know where he is and to have access to him. Unfortunately, we are no longer able to trust the representations about this case made either by the United States government or by the Salvadoran government.
Elections have hit fever pitch in Canada. In-person advance voting ended in the country on Monday night local time, and the grand finale of voting at polling stations will take place on April 28th. Canadians stepped out in large numbers during early voting for 4 days in an election that is extremely crucial for the country and comes at a time when geopolitical uncertainty over tariff war and internal crisis are all piling up. For voters, it is important to decide which party can take up this Herculean task, and are voting preferences changing?
Well, honestly, since being in Canada for the past 18 years, I've never voted. This election has definitely caused me to come out and cast my vote. It's a very historical vote.
Yeah, because I've always been like an NDP voter. But, well, this time around, it's voting Liberal. But I say it with like a bit of like hesitation because, yeah, it's the whole idea of strategic voting that like...
Completely honest, this is going to be the first election where I'm waiting until the final day to actually make my decision. Everything's evolving almost daily, it seems like right now. So I really want to give all the parties time to really explain their platform and to choose which one best represents my interests and those of the vulnerable youth that I serve here in Victoria.
I've never voted Liberal before. Now, let's say I've changed my mind because I think maybe Mark Carney is the right man to take on Trump.
The Liberal Party, how quickly can it change from the Trudeau politics that were there? Maybe they can change quickly, but I want to make sure that I can get a change of some sort. So I will be voting the other way in this election.
So you're going to vote Conservative?
I'm going to be voting Conservative.
The election is a close contest between incumbent Liberal Party, led by a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and on the other end is opposition rival Pierre Poilievre, leading the Conservatives. Opinion polls put Liberals marginally ahead of the Conservatives. Mr. Dave Gordon is a journalist and communications strategist. Is now joining us live on this broadcast from Toronto. Dave, good to see you. Thank you very much for making time for us. And it's a very important time for Canada. Who do you think has the eyes, the ears, and the minds of Canadians?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And that's the $64,000 question. Who has the ears and the minds of Canadians? Because right now, if the polls are correct, there's about 44% of Canadians that think that Mark Carney has the eyes and the ears of everyday Canadians. and about 39% would say Pierre Poilievre of the Conservatives. But that's just percentages. Percentages are a whole different thing of seat projections. Because as you know, in Canada, we have a first past the post democratic system, parliamentary system, where all you need is one vote more than your opposition to win. And the seats distribution projection is that Mark Carney, as of today, looks like he's going to have a majority government by a handful of seats. So those percentage points actually do translate into a significant more number of seats than people might suspect. But anything can happen in the next week. Right now, we've had 2 million advanced votes, which means, to my mind, that this is a consequential election when so many people have come out to advance vote.
Mr. Dave, very quickly as we wrap up this conversation, in your margin, how would you compare Mark Carney's popularity and Pierre Poilievre's popularity? You said it's a week ahead of the elections, so what's the margin?
Well, in terms of popularity, I think that Mark Carney is a little bit tainted by the Trudeau name, the Liberal name, but that hasn't stopped a lot of people from thinking that he's a very different kind of representative. I know some people who aren't going to vote for him because they think that he's Trudeau 2.2. Pierre Poilievre has had a lot of very successful rallies. And so I guess the determining factor is we all see what happens with GOTV, get out the vote. What happens when people actually get off their chairs and go out to the ballot box, because that's the day that everything is decided. You can do all the polls you want, do all the popularity tests you want, but it's on the ballot box that really counts. So both sides are really trying hard to get people out to vote.
All right, so let the people decide. Dave Gordon, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
All right. Thank you very much.
In Indian Parliament today, BJP Member of Parliament Bansuri Swaraj turned heads not with a speech, but with a tote bag. The bag took a direct jab at the Gandhi family, mocking them over the National Herald case. This comes after Priyanka Gandhi used similar bags in the past to show solidarity with different causes. The Enforcement Directorate has filed a charge sheet against Sonia and Rahul Gandhi, accusing them of involvement in a 5,000 crore rupee money laundering scam. Congress has brushed off the allegations, calling the case a politically motivated move by the centre. Take a look. And that's the latest on this edition of Race to Power on WION World is One. Thank you for watching.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation